UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates is coming up next weekend, and today, guys, I have the full card breakdown for you with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Guys, we're going to be going through every single fight as deep as we could possibly get. We're going to be taking a look at betting odds, talking about fighters that I would like to win, and in general, as a fight fan, we're going to be breaking down the whole card together. There are some really good fights on here, but there's also a couple snoozers. As for the betting odds this time around, I'm recording this video the Thursday before you are seeing it. I believe there's only a couple fights where we don't have lines out yet, but regardless, if they're there, we'll talk about them. If they're not, we won't, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Comment down below, hit like and subscribe. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's start off with the early prelim opener over here. And I forgot to mention, by the way, I'm a little bit more lower energy this time around. I'm recording this. My baby literally just went to bed, so I'm just trying not to wake her up at this moment. I'm very excited for these fights. We have Charles Radtke, taking on Matthew Semelsberger. This is a really good fight in my opinion. I'm excited to see it. So you have Charles Radtke, who is a grappler with dangerous submissions and honestly a little bit subpar striking. Sometimes he can be a guy that is submission over position sometimes, and as Daniel Cormier typically says, it runs the risk of losing position. You've seen that here and there with Charles Radtke. So far, so good in his career, but he is coming off of the loss, which is aging very well, by the way, against Carlos Prates. And it was a good fight while it lasted. Prates just found a finish to the body, and Prates did what Prates does, man. He's looking really good. He's in the main event after all. So I still am feeling okay about Charles Radtke. I'm not overly impressed with him, but I do think he's a good fighter. Matthew Semelsberger, on the other hand, is a very aggressive striker who does a good job kind of attacking all parts of the body. He has really good power, really good pressure. He also has some pretty good killer instinct, but because of that, he's not one of those guys that comes out and just murders you with technical intent. You know, sometimes he can get over himself and overextending himself. That's what I should say. And sometimes he can get cranked. Sometimes he can get taken down. He's 11-7 in his career, but to defend him just a little bit, Matthew Semelsberger, I can't, like, Alex Morono was a much better fighter over 2 years ago. He got the win over Jake Matthews, which is a good win. Jeremiah Wells, a split decision, which is, it's okay. And then he had the Uros Medic fight, which I still am high on Medic myself. And then he had the Preston Parsons fight where it was a dog fight. Both guys had their moments. And so Matthew Semelsberger has been fed to the wolves so far. I think he's a little bit better than his 11-7 record. In saying that, though, I do think that Charles Radtke will be able to just out-grapple Matthew Semelsberger. I can see Matthew Semelsberger really coming forward, trying to take Radtke's head off. If he does connect, I do think that Radtke will survive, and I think that Radtke is going to find the openings for the grappling. He's going to find the takedowns there, and I think that he's going to get the win that way. As for who I would like to see win, I would like to see Matthew Semelsberger win because he does really need a win in his career right now, but this is a great fight to start off the card. So let's take a look over at Odds Jam to see where the odds are at right now. You can see Charles Radtke is a very slight favorite. That makes sense to me. Like I said, Radtke hasn't exactly impressed me like crazy in the UFC, but I do think that he's an okay fighter. He's a very capable fighter. So my pick is going to be Radtke to get the job done, but I would like to see Semelsberger get the win. All right, guys, let's continue on over to the next fight. We have Melissa Mullins, formerly Melissa Dixon, taking on UFC newcomer Klaudia Sygula. Now, Klaudia Sygula, she is 6-1, but she does have a lot of fighting experience prior to entering the UFC over here. I'll start with her. She's a well-rounded fighter who does excel at striking. She has good heart, and like I said, she has pretty decent experience prior to entering the cage. Melissa Mullins, on the other hand, is an accurate striker with good patience, good power. The problem is, like, she does a good job both in the clinch, at range. She has BJJ in her back pocket, and not necessarily so much wrestling. It's just when she's on the ground, she's pretty capable, but I don't get a good feeling when I watch Melissa Mullins fight, man. Like, and more so that it seems to be like she has these skills on paper. We've seen them in the past, but the problem is, in especially her last couple fights, they've been completely unimpressive. But she's not like the complete bottom of the barrel of the division. That's kind of, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying about Melissa Mullins. She's coming off a horrible performance against Nora Cohenhole. Even before that, against Alex Siva, she didn't like. It was a pretty low level fight, but the problem is, I do think that she'd beat the bottom of the barrel in the division. You kind of understand what I'm saying? There's not a ton to break down over here, okay? You have Melissa Mullins, who she could possibly open up the grappling, but I do believe this is going to be a primarily stand-up fight. We haven't seen Klaudia fight anybody to the level of Melissa Mullins, but she does have quite a few fights in her back pocket. This one could go either way, to be honest with you, but I am going to go with the at least UFC experience that we have seen from Melissa Mullins although they do have the same record. Melissa Mullins at least has fought people like Nora Cornhole, but the problem is, like, she hasn't even looked good against Nora Cornhole, and Nora Cornhole herself is pretty overrated. Understand where I'm coming from over here. I'm going to very reluctantly pick Melissa Mullins to get the job done. Let's see what the odds are at right now. And you can see Melissa Mullins is a pretty big favorite over here. I certainly wouldn't be that confident in her. I don't know if anybody feels the same way. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about, like, when I break down Melissa Mullins? I don't know, man. I'd love to know what you think about it in the comments. All right, guys, let's continue on up the card to Cortavious Romious, and I might be pronouncing his name wrong. My apologies if I am. And he's taking on Gaston Bolanos. Guys, I was really excited for Gaston to come into the UFC, and he passed the initial test against Aaron Filmus, but then he ran into Marcus McGee, where he just wasn't able to keep up with the brawling pace in that fight, and he ended up getting finished. He's 7-4. He has put himself in a must-win situation, but it sucks, man, because you have these guys who are very skilled at Muay Thai. Like, Gaston Bolanos is a good Muay Thai fighter. He has really nice power. He isn't afraid to get creative. His striking in general is pretty on point. The problem is he is one of those guys who just has a Muay Thai background, has a big hole in his game, that being the grappling. He's taken on Cortavious Romious, and I apologize again, I can never get his name right. He's a well-rounded fighter who, honestly, has explosive shots. He's a finisher in all aspects of MMA. He's not afraid to get into a slugfest, but he absolutely can fight technically as well. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. He's coming off of two very, very nice wins. Very nice wins. And I don't know if I see this fight going any other way than Romious taking Gaston down, landing ruthless elbows, and just finishing him. Am I wrong? Like, is the fight that easy to break down for me? But the problem is, like, you have Gaston, who is a very good striker. He could always catch Romious. He could catch him. But the problem is, when you take on a guy who seems to be as well-rounded as Cortavious Romious is, I can't help but pick him to get the win. I'm decently confident to see him get the win. I'm excited to see him enter the UFC, and I think that he's going to get the job done, to be honest with you. And I don't know. I kind of hope Gaston gets the job done. Like I said, he is in a must-win situation in his career, so I kind of hope he gets the job done. But regardless, Romious is very, very exciting to watch as well. I can't wait to see how he performs in the UFC. And you can see that the odds are very, very slightly in Cortavicious' favor. I don't know why that is. I'm pretty confident in saying that he gets the job done. But hey, maybe it's just the lack of experience. We don't really know. Regardless, I'm excited for this fight. I think it'll deliver. All right, guys, let's keep going up to the next fight. This is a very, very good fight. I cannot wait to see this one. This might be one of my favorite fights or most anticipated fights on the whole card. We have Cody Stamann taking on Damon Blackshear, okay? This is a very important fight for both of their careers, and I can't believe I'm looking at Damon Blackshear with a 14-7 record, man. He is such a good fighter. You know what? I'll start with him. Damon Blackshear is a very, very complete fighter. Great striking, incredible ground game. He always shows high fight IQ. He's very, very calm and patient in the octagon. Does what he needs to get the job done. I think he is one of the most underrated talents that we have over here, but he just cannot string it together, man. It's so tough. Like I said, I think he's so much better than this 14-7 record. And also, he's taken on some very, very good competition. Like, he lost to Farid Basharat, which was a good performance, and still, he ended up winning his next two fights. But then, he ran into Mario Batista, who has proven to be a fantastic contender. And I thought that he won this fight. Close fight, but I thought he got the win over there. And then he took on Montel Jackson, who knocked him out in literally the first punch. I think that Damon Blackshear is so much better than his record shows. He's taking on Cody Stamann, who is... There's not a ton to break down about him, to be honest with you. He has a well-rounded skill set, primarily a wrestler. He's good everywhere, but doesn't exactly shine anywhere. He's one of those guys. And he's... I don't know if he's necessarily better than his record. We kind of know where Cody Stamann fits in his career, because every single time he's taken on, like, that next level of competition, he hasn't been able to get past the test. The guys like Sayan Nurmagomedov, the guys like Douglas Silva, De Andrade. So that is a little bit closer to his level, in my opinion, but that's still a very good contender. And of course, the Taylor Lapilus loss. He is a good fighter. He can keep up. And the only problem is, I do believe that Cody Stamann is fighting in, like I talk about with the bantamweight division, the toughest division in combat sports history. He's 35 years old now, a lot of miles on his body. I do think that he is past his prime at this moment, because against Lapilus, and I only started thinking about this, he did look a little bit slower. But to give him the benefit of the doubt over here, he got hit with a lot of groin shots and eye pokes. That might be why he didn't look so great. That might be why he slowed down a little bit. So I'm not ready to say that Cody Stamann is past his prime, but that's certainly something to take into consideration, okay? I've said this for the last while with Damon Blackshear. I believe he's the better fighter, and I believe that Damon Blackshear is going to get the job done. He should get the job done. He is just better. But the problem is, he doesn't always complete the job. I want to bet on Blackshear, but I don't know if I can actually pull the trigger, let alone at what Tapology says to be minus 250 right now. My pick is going to be Blackshear, but he has burned me before, and I don't know if I want to put my money where my mouth is on that. In saying that, though, I think he is so underappreciated as a fighter. I think he is so talented, and he is a pleasure to watch every single time that he steps into the octagon. I wholeheartedly hope that Blackshear gets a job done. I will cheer for this guy all the way to the belt, okay? Let's take a look at odds, Jim. Blackshear sitting at an average odds of minus 253. I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that, man. Like, I can't get burned again on Blackshear. If he's an underdog, yeah, but I don't think, I don't trust him in that sense. I don't trust him. He's going to be the pick. I hope he wins. Let's see what happens. But now, guys, let's move on to the next fight. A fight that I'm personally very excited for as well. We have Nicolas Dalby taking on Elizeu Zaleski, the guy that we were just talking about. Nicolas Dalby making it work at 39 years old in such a light division, okay? I love watching this guy fight, and I'm feeling better than him than I ever have despite him coming off of a loss. He's one of those guys that can do a bit of everything, and he puts up a really great pace. He utilizes his breathing, and you can actually see that throughout the fight, which is actually very, very interesting. He's a good striker. He has a lot of heart. He has a lot of cardio. It is really, really hard to maintain control of him, but when you are able to get control of him, it usually, to be honest with you, doesn't last that long. Nicolas Dalby is a fantastic fighter. He's coming off of a little bit of a win streak, finally running into a loss with Rinat Fakhretdinov. And even in this fight, it was amazing on both ends. And in my opinion, this fight could have gone either way. I'm left, even though that he had a loss, I'm left feeling even better about him than I ever have, okay? I'm finally convinced of this dude. I'm done talking about his age until we get like a couple fights down the road and maybe he ends up actually showing that age. But he's fantastic at what he does. He's taking on Elizeu Zaleski, who we have a little bit less to break down about him because he's one of those guys who is an all-around fighter. He's decent everywhere, but doesn't shine anywhere. A little bit like we were talking about with Cody Stamann, except I do believe he is a tiny bit of a step above Cody Stamann. Problem with his record as of recently, I do believe the fight against Abubakar Nurmagomedov was a robbery. It was a complete robbery. I don't think that he should have won that fight. And then you had the common opponent, Rinat Fakhretdinov, and after that, he ended up losing to Randy Brown. But even in this, man, it was a really, really good performance. Like, I am feeling very high about both of these guys. I think they're both great fighters. I am just left feeling, with the recent performances, better about Nicolas Dalby than I have been about Elizeu Zaleski. I'm done doubting this guy. I am on team Nicolas Dalby. I'm picking him to get the win, kind of at about a 75% rate. And I would like to see him get the win, man. He's very, very exciting to watch. And you can see the odds are close to a pick 'em. To be honest with you, that makes sense. Both guys are kind of at the same point of their career. Both guys have shown to be very, very capable and great fighters. The odds make sense. This could go either way. I am a little bit more confident in saying that Dalby is going to get the job done myself, though. I can't wait for this one. But guys, let's continue on over to the next fight. And this is going to be a very interesting fight to watch because we have Mansur Abdul Malik taking on Dusko Todorovic. Now, this, I'm very excited to see Malik get into the UFC. I'm very, very excited to see how he's going to perform because he has a lot of potential. I will say, though, he is unproven. I do believe him to be unproven, and this isn't exactly going to answer any questions, in my opinion. You have Mansur Abdul Malik, who is an all-round fighter, well-rounded fighter, but he is primarily a striker. He has good power, great elbows, and ruthless top work once he gets there. But like I said, I'm not sure exactly where this is going to end up, but I do have good feelings about him as of right now, okay? He's also pretty big for the division. He's coming into the UFC with a perfect record so far, but even then, like, the Contender Series, I don't know how I feel about that. The Alan St. Jealous loss or fight, he fought a guy who's 1-0. I don't know how I exactly, again, feel about him coming to the UFC. He's taking on Dusko Todorovic, who is a technical striker with good pressure and good grappling to back up his game if necessary. His record kind of speaks for itself. He's one of those fighters that is pretty inconsistent. He can win, he can lose. He's not completely incapable, and we've seen him in the UFC for a while now, but he has had a big, big layoff. I was about to say I don't know why that was, but perhaps it was because of the knee injury. I guess that would make sense, wouldn't it? Regardless, man, I don't know. The problem is, like I said, I'm not sure where he's going to fit in the division. He's looked so good so far, but I don't like the opponents that he's taken on in his past. I'm going to pick Malik to get the job done, but that's a low confidence pick in mine. Low confidence pick. The odds suggest that this is going to be a very one-sided fight. Excuse me, I used the wrong scene we had at OBS over there. I can't wait to see it. I'm more so interested in this fight and how it's going to go as compared to actually predicting it. I didn't really say a ton that time around, I don't think, but regardless, I'm excited to watch this one. Now, guys, let's continue on to a fight that I also don't think I have a ton to say about over here. We have Tresean Gore taking on Antonio Trocoli. There's not a ton to say about this fight, man. Tresean Gore is a heavy-handed wrestler, pretty low-volume guy in general. Antonio Trocoli is a decent striker with a pretty good submission game. He uses his reach and height well while striking. Sometimes he can get caught while he's in the pocket. He's also very, very big for the division. There's not a ton to break down about this one. I mean, like, Tresean Gore might be able to take him down, but is Tresean Gore going to throw a punch? If he does, he can certainly knock him out, but I don't know. Other than that, Trocoli might just work Tresean Gore. I don't know what to say about this fight, man. I don't know what to say. You have Tresean Gore coming off of the Josh Friend one. Before that, you had the Cody Brundage and Brian Battle Loss. I mean, those did age well, but also, is Tresean Gore going to get to the fight? That's the problem. I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to pick Trocoli to get the win. I'm not going to spend time talking about this fight. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Okay? We're going to move on to the main card. Let's see what the odds have to say. My pick's going to be Antonio Trocoli, and he's sitting at an underdog, actually. It's a little bit shocking to me. It's a little bit shocking. I thought he'd be the favorite, to be honest with you. I'm picking him to win. I can't wait to get to the main card. But guys, before we do move on to the main card, I want to stop you for just a second because, as you know, I am very, very invested into this sport. I bet a lot on this fight, on these fights. I talk a lot about betting. If you're interested to hear where exactly I'm putting my money where my mouth is, you can check out the channel membership in the pinned comment description down below or right next to the subscribe button. If you're interested in either supporting the channel or seeing exactly what I'm doing with my money every Thursday or Friday before the event, I will be posting a community members post and a members only video discussing exactly what I'm going to be doing with my money. Never blindly tail, but if you're interested in combining my fight knowledge with your own research, either that or, like I said, supporting the channel, it is very cheap compared to other channels. I appreciate you listening. Lastly, the tool we have been using, OddsJam, it is a very, very great tool for serious bettors with multiple sportsbooks, very quick to all of the odds. If you guys are interested in signing up for OddsJam, you can check out my link in the pinned comment description down below and use code Clenbat. You can get a discount when you sign up, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Let's move on to this fantastic main card. And starting off this main card, we have Gerald Meerschaert taking on UFC newcomer, newly signed double one championship champion, Reinier de Ridder. I am very excited for this fight. As you guys know, One Championship is my favorite organization. I wish there was more to talk about when it comes to YouTube with media and all of that. I am a huge fan of One Championship. I will say they could have gotten a better signing from One Championship, but Reinier de Ridder is a fantastic fighter in himself. I'm just saying, like, I don't think he represents the talent over at One as perfectly as he possibly could. But anyways, Gerald Meerschaert, we all know him. We all love him. He's a grappler with okay boxing on the feet. His game plan is always to take his opponents down and work in his grappling. He has a ton of high-level experience. Been in there with some of the best. That explains his 37-17 record. The problem with Gerald Meerschaert, though, he is 36 years old, almost 37. He has so many miles on his body, and his age is really, really showing now. His striking recently has been incredibly slow. In saying that, though, he's coming off of two really fun wins against both Edmund Shabazian and Brian Barberena. The opponents could be better, but he still is getting the win. He's taking on Reinier de Ridder, who, like I said, is the former double champion over at One. He is a judo and BJJ fighter with nice throws, really good timing, and dangerous submissions. He's super tough, has really good cardio, really good ground and pound as well. He's always one of those guys trying to finish his opponents. He won't just take you down and lay on you. He will actively try to finish you. Now, there's a problem with de Ridder because if an opponent is able to stuff his takedowns, he can be beat. It's not like he's useless on the feet, but he certainly is, like, he's not a grappler bust. That's what I'm saying, but he certainly can have issues in the striking department. I think that the UFC is throwing him a layup and Gerald Meerschaert giving him somebody who has been incredibly slow on the feet and also just looking to take people down. You can never count out GM3, especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu, but I am going to be picking Reinier de Ridder to get this win. I think that, and something that I didn't think about is, I don't recall if he's been fighting at 205 or 185 recently. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. He's fought at middleweight before. He can absolutely make the weight. That's not necessarily a question. I was just thinking if he was doing it as of recently. Reinier de Ridder is past his prime as well, but I do think that his grappling alone will give fighters a problem in the division, and Gerald Meerschaert is going to be a big test for him. If he can really outwork Gerald Meerschaert on the ground, then he's going to give other people in the division problems, but I believe that he's going to run into problems when it comes into the top 10 of the division, but I do think that he's going to get a win over Gerald Meerschaert. I think that he's going to out-grapple him. I think that he's going to throw him down. I'm picking Reiner de Riddler to get the win over here, and that is not my one championship bias. The problem is, man, I always cheer for these one guys. If they're fighting anywhere else, I want to cheer for de Riddler, but I just really, really like Gerald Meerschaert. It's one of those fights that I don't want to see either guy lose, man. It's one of those fights, and it's going to be sad to see. Let's see what Odds Jam is saying over here. Reiner de Riddler sitting at a sizable favorite. It makes sense, man. Even in the last 2 wins that Meerschaert had, they weren't against any impressive competition, and he's looking slower and slower with time. But he is one of those guys that you can never count out, so keep that in mind. Now, guys, let's continue on up the main card over to Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Denise Gomez. I actually am quite excited for this fight. Denise Gomez has been fun to watch, and I've been a fan of Karolina's for a long time, okay? You have Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who is a really slick striker for the division. Not a ton to break down with her. She's past her prime. She's almost 40 years old, and she's really starting to get old in her career, and that's been showing in her performances, especially against Eisman Lucindo in her last fight. She has really shown her age over here. She couldn't keep up. Denise Gomez, on the other hand, very young, not even 25 years old yet, and she is improving every single time that we see her. She is a well-rounded fighter with an aggressive striking base, good grappling, good conditioning behind it, good cardio. Or excuse me, I meant to say good heart, not good cardio, but she does have good cardio too. She's coming off of a very, very nice performance after, and I've been very excited with her. Like, Bruna Brazil's a great win. I think that she's being very underrated. Finally getting a little bit of the respect she deserves. She got a beautiful win over Yasmin Urugui, who is highly regarded in this division. And then the Angela Hill loss doesn't make any sense. She's better than Angela Hill. Angela Hill just does that to people sometimes. She's 15-13. She sucks. It happens. She wins, and I don't get it. Then she had the fantastic fight against Eduardo Mora, where I was just impressed with her skill set. Okay? Guys, I'm very confident in Denise Gomez to get the job done here. Karolina won't have enough options. I'm not so sure that she's even going to get it better in the striking department because her age has been showing. Like I said, she's 40 years old now, taking on somebody who is going to be stronger, have more options, and improving every single time that we see her. I think that Denise Gomez is going to be a problem for the division, and she's still getting better. I'm very confident in her to get the job done. I am strongly considering betting on this fight. As for who I would like to see win, though, guys, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Karolina is actually one of those fighters that made me care about this division, and I've always enjoyed watching her strike. She seems like a pretty good person. Like, I've always enjoyed watching Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I hope she gets the job done. I just don't think it's going to happen, okay? Denise Gomez sitting at a minus 429 average odds favorite. That's understandable. I'm so with that. But to bet on that, oh man, I don't even know. That's some steep odds for that division that always has their upsets, right? But I am very confident in Denise Gomez to get the job done. All right, guys, let's continue on to the only fight, and I'm worried that this was newly added and I didn't know about it because this is the only fight on the card that doesn't have any odds at the time of recording this video. Again, I'm recording this video the Thursday before you're seeing it, and there are no odds out as of right now. If anybody knows if this fight was a last-minute addition, please let me know in the comments because I don't know if that's the case. Ricky Turquoise, taking on Bernardo Sopaj. You have Ricky Turquoise coming off of a little bit of a rough loss to Raul Rosas Jr. He's a versatile striker who doesn't exactly shine anywhere, but is pretty good. He can weaponize his pace, and when he does, he is pretty tough to deal with. And against Raul Rosas, man, we didn't expect him to do all that well, but he showed really good scrambles. That's about it. He was out-grappled. He was submitted. He's taking on Bernardo Sopaj. He's a fast striker with really, really nice speed, decent power for the division. He has good movement, good pressure. Excuse me. Good combinations. He's not useless on the ground, but he does have nice takedown defense in order to keep things on the feet. I imagine this fight's going to remain on the feet. I'm not confident feeling either way on this fight, to be honest with you, but I will lean towards Bernardo Sopaj to get the win here. I don't know, man. I'm not feeling too hot about this fight either way. This one of those that I'm not sure where both the guys fit in the division, and they both can get a one-up on each other. I'm going to give a slight lean to Bernardo Sopaj. It's a very, very low confident pick this time around. All right, guys, let's continue on over to the featured bout. We have Luana Pinheiro taking on Jillian Robertson. Again, another fight in this division that I'm kind of excited for. I always like watching Jillian Robertson fight. Very, very nice, like, grappling to watch. I'm not saying that like to meme because I know people that meme that a lot. Like, I legitimately like watching her technique, okay? Luana Pinheiro coming off of two pretty rough losses, both to Amanda Hebos and Angela Hill. Unfortunately, not feeling so high about her. Not that I necessarily was, but anyway, she's a powerful striker with good takedowns and solid BJJ, but there's like, she's primarily a striker on the feet. She's technical. She possesses really good skill. But I'm excited to talk about Jillian Robertson, man, because she's 14-8, actively improving, and I've never really been feeling better about her, to be honest with you. She is a great grappler for the division. She has decent takedowns. She has good control, really smooth transitions, really nice submissions. Historically, Jillian Robertson has had weak hands, but they are vastly improving. She's adding kickboxing technique, good feints, solid pressure. I think that she is finally hitting her prime. And she, like I said, she is just getting better and better every single time that we see her. And that ground game that she has is so dangerous for this division that it's nice that to see her improving the striking as well, because she's becoming a very, very good threat to the division. Guys, I think that Jillian Robertson is going to ragdoll Luana Pinheiro. I think that I'm not so sure that she's improved to the point where she can take on Luana Pinheiro in the striking, but she could. That she very well can. Like I said, she's improving. I like the kickboxing technique she's been added, but I think that ultimately she'll be able to get this fight to the ground and do what Jillian Robertson does, and she'll grind out Luana Pinheiro in order to get a submission. I'm pretty confident in saying that. I like watching Jillian Robertson fight. I hope she gets the job done, and I think that she is going to get the job done. Let's see what OddsJam has to say about this. Jillian Robertson sitting at about minus 253 favorite. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. There's not a ton of weird lines that I'm looking at this time around. This card seems like there's a few fights that I'm not so sure about, but this card does seem like it's going to go a certain way. But then again, like every single time that we see a card like this, something bad happens. All right, guys, let's move on over to the co-main event. We have Cody, No Love Garbrandt, taking on Miles Johns. Oh boy, Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt. He's a very fast striker with good power, really solid movement, good boxing. Unfortunately, as we all know, Cody Garbrandt is at this point past his prime. He's hesitant, he's extremely chinny, and he lacks fight IQ. I will say, though, I don't know how, but he got the win over Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher. The opponents could absolutely be better, but I didn't expect to see Cody Garbrandt on a 2-fight win streak, okay? Then he had the loss to Davison Figueiredo. Davison is championship material, so there is no shame in losing Davison Figueiredo, but what's interesting about this is he had a good performance here up until the end. Because he did a fantastic job at staying on the outside and timing his strikes when they boxed in the first. It's just the problem in the second, he was taken down and submitted. So Cody Garbrandt, he is still motivated. We listened to Cody Garbrandt talk about it for a long time. He's training as hard as he can. He's trying to fight smart. He doesn't want to get sucked into brawls. He is trying to fight technically smart and doing whatever he can to get the win. And he's been showing to be a little bit better in that sense. I still don't trust him. He's taking on Miles Johns, who is a strong wrestler with crazy power and speed for the division. Sometimes, though, he does lack technique, swinging huge shots. Sometimes, though, also, he just doesn't show up, man. Sometimes he just doesn't show up. Not looking good, being low volume. Sometimes that's how Miles Johns does end up, like, entering the octagon. In saying that, though, Miles Johns is going to be one of those guys that could drag Cody Garbrandt into a brawl. Whether or not he does, I think that Miles Johns is fast enough and powerful enough that Cody Garbrandt's going to have his lights shut off. I think it's going to be one of those sad performances, although, like, to be honest with you, I'm going to be straight with you guys. Like, I don't care about Cody Garbrandt all that much. I'm not really a fan of his. I don't hate the guy. I just don't care. It's not like this sad Tony Ferguson moment that everybody, like, posts every time Cody Garbrandt ends up getting knocked out. I just think about, like, hanging with the boys, you know, a little bit cringe. I don't care. He's going to get shinned, I think, and it's going to be one of those sad losses for a lot of Cody Garbrandt fans. I'm picking Miles Johns to win. I'd like to see Miles Johns get the win. Let's see what OddsJam has to say about that. Wow, okay. Those odds are a lot closer than I thought they'd be. This is a fight that I'm going to consider betting on. At those odds, Miles Johns is sitting at an average odds of minus 137. I am shocked that they're that low. But maybe it's because sometimes, like I said, Miles Johns doesn't show up. I don't know, man. I think he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to chin Cody Garbrandt, and it's going to be very, very sad. All right, guys, let's move on to the main event. We have Neil Magny taking on Carlos Prates. The UFC really trying to push Carlos Prates, and this is a very, very good test for him. He's finally taken on Neil Magny, who is a ranked... Oh, well, Topology says he's number 16. I think he's ranked. Regardless, doesn't matter. Neil Magny, he is a very well-rounded and very experienced fighter. He excels when he slows down the pace of fights, controlling his opponents either in the clinch or using his wrestling. The only problem is, like we've talked about a couple times tonight, his age is really, really starting to show. And I feel like every time that we've seen him, he's offering less resistance to calf kicks. Either that or Ian Gary really just exposed it. He's 37 years old. a million miles on his body at this point. Neil Magny, unfortunately, like I said, is past his prime, and his record shows he's 29-12. He's been losing. He's been winning. He's having some bad performances. Even in the win against Mike Malott, he didn't look good. Even in the Phil Rowe fight, I'd have to watch it again, but I don't think he won that fight. That's an issue, man. That's an issue. But in saying that, Neil Magny is taking on the toughest of the tough in the division, right? Look at just what he's doing with Carlos Prates, one of the true BMFs of the division. Let's talk about Carlos Prates, man. He is a dangerous, patient, and powerful striker with versatile kicks and tons of pressure. He's very light on his feet. He uses his lead leg like a jab, which is really, really nice to watch. He's very unique. You can never count this guy out of a fight. He is always present. Something to note that I like to talk about Carlos Prates is he smokes cigarettes. One day that's going to catch up with him, but so far, so good. Okay, he's 31 years old. He's in his prime. He's looking fantastic. I do want to say one more thing about Carlos Prates, and that brings us back to the Li Jingliang fight, okay? In this fight, I was really worried at the beginning, but it seemed to be just taking some time for Carlos Prates to get going, but it just shows, again, like Carlos Prates, and you can never honestly count the dude out, okay? Every single second that fight went on, he got better. He was so patient. He was crisp. He was powerful, and he ended up finding a finish. Like, it ended up being a really good performance, but he did fight differently this time, okay? He wasn't using his front leg really all that much. Like, I don't mean to knock him for it. He's had a really good performance still, but he was more patient. He could have finished this fight multiple times, but he didn't pounce. He picked his shots the entire time, but that also led to him getting hit a lot, to be honest. The problem is, though, he's also, like, just insanely tough in general, right? His leg got chewed up so bad. Any other fighter would have folded, but Carlos Prates was just there, like, it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter one little bit, okay? I bring that up because it seemed to be a little bit of different performance from what we've seen from Carlos Prates as of recently. I don't see a way that Neil Magny wins this fight, guys. I just don't, man. I think that Neil's past his prime. I think Carlos Prates is finding his stride. He's looking fantastic. He just finished Li Jingliang. Like, nobody's ever done that. He's on an incredible win streak right now. He is looking great in the division, even before the UFC. Like, he's been looking good himself. I'm very confident in Carlos Prates to get the job done. I'm very confident in the guys over at Fighting Nerds. In saying that, though, again, I hope I'm wrong. Neil Magny is one of my favorite fighters. He is so underappreciated, and I wholeheartedly believe that I might be Neil Magny's biggest fan. I cannot believe more people don't like respect the grind that he's been on. I hope that he gets the job done, but I think Carlos Prates is going to win this fight hands down. Let's see what OddsJam has to say. Not shocking one little bit. Minus 612 for Carlos Prates. Unfortunately, I agree with it. Again, I hope to God I'm wrong in this. I would love nothing more than to see Neil Magny win, but I'm nothing against Carlos Prates. Like, I love watching Carlos Prates fight. I'm just a fan of Neil Magny, man. Hope I'm wrong about that one. Let me know what you think. You know what else I would like to hear your thoughts on, though, guys, in the comments down below? I would love to know who you think could possibly beat Ilia Topuria in a fight, because the dude looks like he is unbeatable. If you want to hear a little bit of a discussion about that, we have a video right here. I would love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.